out before I knew I was going to talk about him today, so I'm excited about that because get him to sign it for me. In startup grind fashion, once again, need everybody on their feet and welcome Mr. Paul Ahlstrom. There you go. I'm gonna put it right there for Neil. Neil, this is for you. He called me last night and said, Dad, will you buy me a toy while you're out there? So that's one last stop I have to make. Thanks for the invitation to be here. I'm very excited to participate in this conference. That last presentation was pure gold. If you got nothing else from this conference, you could go home and bank on that. That was amazing. Jared Allgood is one of the great entrepreneurs. Today I'm going to talk about three major disruptions that are going to be affecting you in your industry. And I observed one of these disruptions while I was living in Mexico. I like to call myself the entrepreneur mayor of Mexico City. I just gave myself that title. And the story of what we're talking about was born when I was invited to help create the venture capital industry a few years ago. We were just raising our third fund in the United States, and we had been researching emerging markets. I had put a growth equity fund in Latin America, and I got a call from the vice president of NAFI, Jose Antonio Aguilar Bueno, and he said, I need to meet with you. And he flew out to the United States and met with me, and he said, we've done our homework, and we want to invite you to help us create the venture capital industry in the country of Mexico. I said, wow, I don't know until my wife. We just got invited to create an industry in the country, and she's amazing, and we were up for it, and so we did it. We took on the challenge. We moved to Monterrey, Mexico in 2009, and we thought this would be an amazing opportunity to help lift the country and help change the dynamics in Latin America. One of the challenges, though, we were trying to come up with what was the name for the industry. Since they didn't exist, venture capital was not a word that was widely used in Mexico. The word that was used was capital de riesgo. Capital de riesgo. Anybody know what that means? Risk capital. For those that speak Spanish, how does risk capital sound to you? Risky. Yeah. Risky, and right there next to nuclear waste. It is, and actually, in one of the translations somebody told me was, it's like, here, give me all your money, you're going to lose everything. And so we couldn't start an industry around a name that suena so feo, that sounds so ugly. So we needed to rename the industry. So I went to the Tec de Monterrey and a student group. This is the largest private university system in Latin America. And we met with the student MBAs and the student business students and said, we're going to rename this industry. So I had groups that went out, came back, and they proposed all these different names. And the most controversial one was Capital Aventura. Now you'd say, well, that makes sense. Venture capital, Capital Aventura. But aventura has another connotation in Mexico. Anybody? It means to have an affair. So affair capital. I don't know. That's probably a little bit, death capital. But and so the name that won was Capital Emprendedor. This is called entrepreneur capital. Now, why didn't we call that the United States entrepreneur capital? That's what it's all about. It's about entrepreneur-centric, supporting the entrepreneurs. And so we're going to talk about the rise of entrepreneur capital in Latin America. And we have, our fund has offices in Monterrey and Mexico City and just opened in Guadalajara. So we're going to talk about, about one of the first disruptions that's happening. And so there's three disruptions I want to talk about today. One is a disruption to you and the people that are around you and supporting you and the incubators and accelerators and venture capitalists. So as an investor, this is the ready, fire, aim that Jared was talking about. This is the guys that go out to startup weekend and start building something without asking anybody if they wanted it. And eventually you get it right, don't you? If we give you enough money. The reality is most startups fail. And as investors, we are not increasing the odds of success. Josh Lerner at Harvard produced a study that showed venture investors are not increasing pure chance. And it kind of hurts as an investor knowing that my value-added money is not increasing the odds of you getting it right. And I've had, and I got firsthand experience. Over the years, I've had my share of failures, and probably more than I'd like to admit in public. One of the observations that I had over the years, I've invested in over 100 companies, is that a few entrepreneurs had a habit of getting it right over and over again. And they were doing things 180 degrees opposite of the textbook that we were learning in business school. I have to tell you about my biggest failure. It's the company up there called Cogito. We syndicated this deal in Utah with everybody in Utah Ventures, Wasatch Ventures, UTFC, Canopy Group, V-Spring Capital. Every single fund was in that deal. So it sounds like it's a recipe of this, it's foreshadowing great doom. We put in $13 million in the round. They raised $12 million before us. $25 million in. The company did not get a product into the marketplace. Painful. And I know why now. When I went down to Mexico, I was showing I was teaching a class, and somebody said, "Who named that company?" Cogito. I said, "I'm the founder." Why? "Oh, I know why it failed." "Tell me about it." "It's your name." "What does it mean?" He said, "It's the F word." I said, "Really?" I thought I spoke Spanish. It was one of those slang terms, but it's true because everybody got screwed in that deal, so it makes sense. Most entrepreneurs that are successful have no idea why they're successful. Bob Metcalf said, my success was a mystery to me then and only a little less so now. I want to ask you guys, as the experts of success or failure and living in that startup grind day to day, why do startups fail? Shout out. Why do startups fail? What are the top reasons?
They suck.
Okay. Lack of vision.
Founders give up.
Lack of focus. Founders giving up.
Lack of customers.
No customers.
Improper use of money.
Using money incorrectly.
Building the wrong thing.
Building the wrong thing.
Running out of cash.
What's that?
Don't understand the market.
Not understanding their market.
Unlucky.
Not understanding their customers. Not lucky. What's the definition of luck? When preparation meets opportunity is my definition.
Running out of money.
Running out of cash? That's what Clayton Christensen said. He's going to speak later, and he said, tomorrow, he said, the startups that fail are the ones that run out of cash and can't keep going. It's true. We surveyed hundreds of entrepreneurs. I've invested in the hundreds. Why do entrepreneurs fail? Let me give you very quickly some of the learnings. I've never met a startup that wasn't working hard, doing good things. But what I found was there's an order and a process to what they're doing. They're working hard to get across the chasm, to get into this mainstream, but the reality is most entrepreneurs fail in this early stage black hole, pre-chasm. And up until recently, there hasn't been much research done about this pre-chasm failure area. All entrepreneurs are working hard to innovate, but very few understand what is innovation. Here's my definition. Innovation is the intersection of invention and market insight, where you have this great idea coming together with understanding of how the product fits into the customer's world. Great companies understand the core competencies. Most entrepreneurs I've interviewed do not understand their team's core competencies or how to leverage that core competency. Think about the core competency of Honda. The core competency of Honda is engines. And they build lots of things out of engines. What is your core competency and how does that intersect with the market pain and your team's ability to deliver on that? I've observed great companies start small. 2-3 people, someone to build it, someone to define it, someone to sell it. I've observed that most entrepreneurs, myself included, misprioritize our day-to-day activities. There are things that we can do to take out the deal killer risks early in the process. What Jared was talking about, before you raise a nickel, you can validate customer demand and your product fit before you raise a dollar. The number one reason startups fail is premature scaling. And this was research that was done here in Silicon Valley. To say it another way, it's doing good things but doing them out of order. Hiring a great VP of sales before you have a product to sell. Building your beta before you've done your alpha or your early pain validation. The roots of this failure go back to the traditional product development model called the waterfall development model. It's how large corporations talk to existing customers with existing pain and existing distribution channels. But as a startup, you have a different problem. You have unknown customers, don't have a distribution channel, you don't really understand the pain very well, but you're using process that was designed for somebody else. Create your own process. So the disruption number one to the industry is the disruption of the startup process. The solution that is being talked about from everybody from Steve Blaine to Eric and myself is bring that customer up front in the development cycle. Once you have an idea, as Jared said, stop. Go get your customer. Have a conversation with the customer about the monetizable pain. The guy that coined the term monetizable pain is Mark Richards. I saw him here. You hear Mark? Over here. So this guy that coined the term monetizable pain. Understand that pain before you take that next step. Are you capable of delivering on the product to solve that pain? And follow a process. So this is a process that's outlined in my book, Nail It and Scale It. So disruption number one, the new startup model. Disruption number two. Oh, by the way, let me give you some points of validation. How many people have heard of business model competitions? A few of you. So one of the points of validation of this is the business model competition I'm predicting will completely replace the business plan competition within the next 5 years.